The fluorescent lights of Walmart hummed, a monotonous drone that was usually a comforting background noise to the late-night shopping rush. Tonight, though, they felt like buzzing insects trapped in my skull. The automatic doors were locked, solid, impenetrable. I, along with a handful of other unfortunate souls, was trapped inside. It had all started innocently enough. I'd needed printer ink, a mundane necessity that dragged me out of my pajamas and into the brightly lit, plastic-scented labyrinth of Walmart at 11:45 p.m. I figured I'd be in and out, back home before midnight, tucked safely in bed with a new stack of horror novels waiting to be devoured. How wrong I was. I'd been browsing the clearance aisle, a lonely corner of scratched DVDs and slightly dented board games, when the lights flickered. A collective groan rippled through the sparse shoppers. Power outages in this part of town weren't uncommon. I figured they'd fire up the generator, and in a few minutes we'd be back in business. But the lights didn't return. Instead, a chilling wave of silence washed over the store. The hum of the refrigerators faded. The monotonous music, usually a saccharine blend of pop hits, died abruptly. An eerie, oppressive stillness replaced the usual chaos. Then the announcements started. Not the usual cheerful attention Walmart shoppers spiel. This was different. A distorted, garbled voice, echoing through the PA system like a demonic broadcast station. Walmart is now closed. Please remain where you are. Your cooperation is required. The voice crackled with static, sending shivers down my spine. Required? What did that even mean? Panic was a slow-building wave, starting with a few nervous whispers and then escalating into a low roar. People started converging near the main entrance, pushing and shoving against the locked automatic doors. They didn't budge. I, however, am a creature of habit and horror novels. My instincts, finely tuned by years of fictional nightmares, told me to stay put. Crowds were dangerous, especially when panic was involved. I edged away from the throng and towards the back of the store, specifically the camping aisle. Smart thinking, a voice said behind me. I jumped, nearly knocking over a display of inflatable mattresses. Standing there, leaning against a rack of tents, was a girl who looked about my age, maybe 19 or 20. She had short, choppy black hair, multiple piercings in her ears, and an expression that suggested she'd seen things I wouldn't even dare to imagine. Maya, she introduced herself. And you are? Liam, I replied, still trying to catch my breath. Why camping? Because, she said, her voice low and serious. If things go south, we'll need supplies. Food, water, shelter. Besides, she added with a chillingly knowing look, this place is going to become a maze real quick. She was right. Within minutes, the first screams erupted from the front of the store. I couldn't see what was happening, but the sheer terror in those cries was enough to make my stomach churn. Maya grabbed a large backpack, stuffing it with granola bars, bottled water, a first aid kit, and a sturdy-looking camping knife. I followed her lead, grabbing a tent, a sleeping bag, and a can of bear repellent. You never knew. As we moved towards the hardware section, we heard the sound of heavy footsteps echoing through the store. Not the shuffling gait of shoppers, but something heavier, more deliberate. We ducked behind a display of power tools, peering through the gaps in the shelving. What I saw then is burned into my memory. It was a figure tall and gaunt, dressed in a familiar blue Walmart vest. But its face was a grotesque mask of stretched skin and hollow eyes. It shuffled through the aisle, its head twitching erratically, making a low, guttural growl that sent a fresh wave of fear through me. It was followed by another and then another, all wearing those cursed vests, all with those horrifying empty eyes. What are those things? I whispered, my voice trembling. Doesn't matter, Maya hissed. Just stay quiet. We held our breath as the creatures shuffled past, their unsettling moans echoing through the vast space. They seemed to be searching for something, or perhaps someone. Once they were gone, we moved quickly, heading towards the back of the store and the relative safety of the garden center. The metal gate separating the indoor and outdoor sections was locked, but Maya, surprisingly adept with a hairpin, managed to pick the lock in seconds. Outside, the night was unusually dark. The moon was hidden behind thick clouds, casting long, distorted shadows across the rows of plants and gardening tools. We set up the tent near the back fence, trying to be as quiet as possible. The silence was broken only by the distant sounds of sirens, growing fainter with each passing minute. "Think anyone is coming to help us?" I asked, the question laced with a desperate hope. Maya shook her head. "Don't count on it. Whatever is happening here, it's bigger than us." We huddled inside the tent, listening to the sounds of the night. The wind rustled through the trees, sounding like whispers. Every creak and groan of the building made us jump. Then, the screams started again. Closer this time. We peeked out of the tent to see one of the creatures from earlier, shambling through the garden center, its empty eyes scanning the rows of plants. It was closer than before. Maya grabbed the bear repellent, her hand shaking. "We might have to use this." We waited, frozen in place, as the creature passed by. It was agonizingly slow, and every second felt like an eternity. Once it was gone, we collapsed back into the tent, our hearts pounding. "We can't stay here," I said, my voice barely a whisper. "They'll find us." Maya nodded. "We need to move. But where?" We thought for a moment, racking our brains for any possible escape route. Then, I remembered something. "The loading docks," I said. "There are always trucks coming and going. Maybe we can find a way out through there." It was a long shot, but it was the only plan we had. We packed up our gear and crept back inside the store, moving as silently as possible. The inside was even more horrifying than before. The floor was littered with overturned displays and discarded merchandise. The air was thick with the stench of fear and something else, something metallic and sickeningly sweet. We saw more of the creatures, their numbers seemingly growing. They moved with a disturbing, unsettling purpose, their hollow eyes searching, always searching. We avoided them by sticking to the shadows, using the aisles as cover. We navigated through the maze of merchandise, our senses on high alert. Finally, we reached the back of the store and the loading docks. The area was dark and deserted, the only light coming from a flickering security lamp. The docks were a series of large metal doors, each leading to a truck bay. Most of the doors were closed, but one was slightly ajar. We approached the open door cautiously, peering inside. The truck bay was empty, save for a few discarded pallets and a stack of cardboard boxes. "Hello," I called out, my voice trembling. "Is anyone there?" Silence. We stepped inside, our hearts pounding in our chests. The air was thick with the smell of diesel fuel and stale coffee. Suddenly, the door slammed shut behind us. We spun around, our eyes wide with terror. Standing there, silhouetted against the dim light, was a figure. It was a man, tall and muscular, wearing a blood-stained Walmart uniform. His face was hidden in shadow, but I could see the glint of something metallic in his hand. "Going somewhere?" he asked, his voice a low, menacing growl. He stepped forward, and the light fell on his face. It was one of the creatures, but different. He looked more aware, more in control. "You can't escape," he said, his eyes burning with an unholy light. "This is our Walmart now." He raised the weapon in his hand. It was a meat cleaver, gleaming in the dim light. We screamed and turned to run, but it was too late. He lunged at us, the cleaver raised high. Just as he was about to strike, Maya sprayed him directly in the face with the bear repellent. He roared in pain, clutching his eyes. We took advantage of the distraction and ran, scrambling out of the truck bay and back into the store. We knew we couldn't stay. We had to get out, even if it meant facing the horrors outside. We ran towards the main entrance, dodging the creatures that roamed the aisles. The doors were still locked, but I had an idea. The garden center. There was a chain-link fence surrounding the outdoor area. If we could climb it, we could escape. We ran back through the store, our lungs burning. We reached the garden center and sprinted towards the fence. I boosted Maya up first, and she scrambled over the top. Then, she reached down and helped me up. We dropped to the ground on the other side of the fence, landing hard on the cold, unforgiving asphalt. We didn't stop running. We ran as fast as we could, putting as much distance as possible between us and the cursed Walmart. We ran until we reached the main road, where we flagged down a passing car. The driver, a middle-aged woman with a look of shock on her face, agreed to take us to the nearest police station. At the station, we told our story. The police listened, but they didn't seem to believe us. They chalked it up to a bad dream, a hallucination brought on by stress and exhaustion. But I knew what I had seen. I knew the horrors that lurked within the walls of that Walmart. And I knew that I would never set foot in another one again. Weeks later, I saw a news report. The Walmart was under investigation after several employees were reported missing. The report mentioned unusual activity and disturbing evidence. I knew what that evidence was. I knew what had happened there. I looked at Maya, who was sitting beside me. We didn't speak. We didn't need to. We both knew the truth. The Walmart was no longer a place of commerce. It was something else entirely. Something dark. Something hungry. And I was just lucky to have escaped with my life. But the memory of those empty eyes, the chilling moans, and the unholy light, those would stay with me forever. The fluorescent hum of the lights still rings in my ears, a constant reminder of the night I was trapped inside Walmart. And I was trapped with something far more terrifying than just boredom.